Every morning, at exactly 6:17 a.m., Daniel woke up to the same impossible sight, a pair of muddy shoes placed neatly beside his bed. They weren't his. The first time it happened, he laughed it off. Maybe he'd walked in his sleep. Maybe he'd forgotten something. People did strange things when they were tired. He cleaned the shoes, left them by the door, and went to work. The next morning, Tay were by closer this time, right beside the bed. Mud still fresh, as if someone had just stepped in from the rain. Daniel lived alone. He was sure of it. By the third day, the laughter was gone. He checked the locks twice. Window sealed. Security system active. Nothing was broken. Nothing was missing, except his peace. That night, he stayed awake. He lay in bed staring at the dark ceiling, listening to every small sound the apartment made. Pipes. Wind. The faint hum of the fridge. Hours passed. At 3:12 a.m., he heard it. A soft step, not inside the apartment. Behind him, Daniel's breath caught. He didn't turn around. Another step. Slow. Wet. Like someone walking across the floor with soaked shoes. He squeezed his eyes shut. This isn't real, he told himself. The sound stopped. Silence swallowed the room again. When he finally forced himself to turn, there was nothing there. Morning came. 6:17 a.m. Daniel didn't want to look, but he did. The shoes were there again. This time, they were covered in darker mud. Almost black, thick, sticky, as if they'd been dragged through something deeper than dirt. And they weren't just placed neatly anymore. They were angled, pointing toward him. Daniel called in sick to work. He couldn't leave. Not anymore. Something was happening inside his apartment, and he needed to understand it. He set up his phone to record overnight, locked the doors again, and waited. The next morning, his heart pounded as he opened the recording. At first, nothing, just him tossing in bed. Then at exactly 3:12 a.m., the video glitched, the screen flickered. Static lines cut across the image. And then, slowly, something appeared. A pair of legs, standing at the foot of his bed, wearing the shoes. Daniel froze. The figure didn't move at first. It just stood there, dripping mud onto the floor. Then, it took a step. The sound was unmistakable wet, heavy, deliberate. Another step, closer, closer, until it stood right beside his bed. Beside him, the camera crackled, struggling to stay clear. Daniel watched, unable to breathe, as the figure leaned down, closer to his sleeping self. Its face never appeared on camera, but the audio picked something up. A whisper. Soft. Broken. Familiar. You left me there. Memories hit him like a storm. Rain. A road. A late-night drive. And someone in the passenger seat. Someone he hadn't thought about in years. It had been an accident. He had been tired. Distracted. It was raining so hard he could barely see. The car had slipped, spun, and crashed into the ditch. He had crawled out, shaking, terrified. But the person beside him, they hadn't moved. Daniel remembered the panic. The fear. Run. Not for help, just run. He told himself someone else would find them, that he'd come back. But he never did. That night, Daniel didn't sleep. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the shoes, waiting. 3:12 a.m. Right on time. The air turned cold. The faint sound of wet footsteps echoed again. But this time, Daniel didn't look away. I remember, he whispered. The footsteps stopped. Silence filled the room. I left you, he said, his voice shaking. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. A long pause, then another step, right in front of him. The shoes stood there now, empty. But not empty. Something was there, something unseen. Watching, waiting. Daniel swallowed hard. I'm sorry. The words barely came out. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the shoes slowly turned. Not toward him, toward the door. Mud began to spread across the floor, forming a trail, leading out. The next morning, the shoes were gone. For the first time in days, the space beside his bed was empty. Clean. Silent. But Daniel didn't feel relief, because on the floor, leading from his bed to the door, were muddy footprints. Only one set. Barefoot. And they were his.